Shirley did as she was told. A pair of trousers walked by, followed by a dog, which stopped to sniff a tree. The animal glared at her as if to ask, "What are you up to?" Shirley ducked. "Anyone there?" "No." "Then come quick." Shirley turned but saw no one. "Here, behind the desk." She almost fell over the book that lay open on the rug. "Look, isn't this a wonderful secret?" Giggling, Emily pointed to the page. Shirley dared not look. What terrible thing warranted such precautions? "Look." She did. "What is it?" "Naked people," whispered Emily. "Oh." Shirley looked and looked, but did not recognize anyone she knew. The pictures were more like road maps, colored in blue and red, than flesh and bones. "You can see everything." That was true. Livers, lungs, stomachs, brains, even an unborn baby. Yuck. Not to spoil Emily's fun, Shirley pretended enthusiasm. "I've never ever seen pictures like these before." "Of course not. This is my father's book, Gray's Anatomy. We can find out everything, just everything, reading it." The book was thick, thicker than any dictionary. Shirley had no desire to read the small print and whispered, "I hear footsteps." Now she could but watch as her friend performed the mad antics of a comedian in an old-fashioned movie, scurrying here and there, bumping into the furniture, tripping over her own feet, hiding the evidence, and stealing up the stairs. Panting in the safety of her room, Emily cautioned, "Remember, it's our secret." No secret was ever so safe. A secret, like a chore, always seems to lead to another, one even more troublesome than the first. Shirley's second secret began the night of the final encounter between the Dodgers and the Cardinals. Her team led the league by 4.5 games, but their opponents were the defending champions and still had a chance to take the pennant. It wasn't going to be easy, not with Harry Breaching pitching for the Cardinals. He had been the hero of the last World Series. Even before the players took the field, Red Barber's voice was hoarse with excitement. Suddenly, her mother claimed Shirley's attention. "Have you done all your homework?" "Yes." "Then you won't mind doing something for Mrs. O'Reilly, will you?" "Now? Now. Do I have to? I think it is an opportunity." Rats, another opportunity. "Mrs. O'Reilly has asked you to babysit tonight. The poor woman has not been able to go to church to do her good work since the babies came. Now that you are grown up and they live only downstairs, Mrs. Riley thought you might like to earn some money." Money? That was different. "Does Mrs. O'Reilly have a radio?" Mother nodded, smiling. Well then, it was a golden opportunity. The moment Shirley walked into the apartment, Mrs. O'Reilly picked up her pocketbook and was ready to go. "Dinner's on the table. Their diapers are in their room. I should be back in about 2 hours. Any questions?" Shirley could not think of any. The radio was in plain sight on the table next to the armchair. "Be good boys, won't you? Shirley's here to take care of you." Sean, Seamus, and Stephen stopped pushing their toy cars around the floor to look up with identical sweet smiles and wave. "Bye-bye, Mommy. Bye-bye, Mommy. Bye-bye, Mommy." As soon as the door closed, Shirley turned on the radio and twisted the dial until she found the familiar sounds of the ballpark. Nothing had happened in the first inning. Better get acquainted, she told herself, and kneeled on the floor to say hello. But she got no response to, "Hi, Sean. Hi, Seamus," or "Hi, Stephen." The three merely crawled around crying, "Beep, beep, 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 beep." When they sat perfectly still, each triplet was indistinguishable from his brothers. Now, in orbit, they were an endless multitude. The effect was far from relaxing. Grabbing the nearest, Shirley tried to station him in a high chair. The baby weighed less than precious coins, but was a lot more grief. He drooled with delight at Shirley's foolish struggle to thread him into the chair. If the legs were in position, the head was turned the wrong way. If the head faced the right direction, the legs dangled over the table. If she begged the child to bend, he stiffened. If she begged him to straighten, he slouched, almost slipping through her hands. Compared to this, dressing an octopus would have been a cinch. One seated, two more to go. In each case, the battle was prolonged and silent. When all three were safely in their chairs, Shirley was exhausted, and Joe Garagiola hadn't beaten the throw, but had spiked Jackie Robinson's foot instead, and given all Dodger fans one more reason to hate the Cardinals. The stands were in an uproar, but nothing compared to the cries that now emanated from the triplets, each outdoing the other. "My chair! I want my own chair! My chair! I want my own chair! My chair! I want my own chair!" Shirley didn't even know which one was Sean, Seamus, or Stephen, much less their chairs. Okay, Shirley hurried to reverse the seating that had taken her an inning to accomplish. Beep, 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 beep. Stamping her foot, she shouted, "Which is your chair?" All three pointed to the one facing the kitchen. "That mine, that mine, that mine." Third uncle was right. Money did not rain from the skies, but no baby was going to defeat her. She picked up the nearest one and sat down at the table. With one hand tightly around his belly, she fed him with the other. The process was messy, like pitching coal onto a moving train. Meanwhile, Robinson came to bat and almost got into a fight with the catcher Garagiola. If it hadn't been for the umpire, there would have been a riot in St. Louis. Shirley longed for just such an official to keep the peace among Sean, Seamus, and Stephen. When one was not spitting out food, another was tugging at her skirt, while the third screamed for his car, which had rolled underneath the sofa. By the fifth inning, she had finally restored the dining room to its original condition. Now, with one man on base, her hero smacked the ball right out of the park. She yelled, "Hooray!" The boys did, too. But when she had stopped, they kept on yelling, "Hooray! Hooray! Hooray!" "Please stop. Please, don't shout any more." She might as well have been speaking Chinese. Somehow she managed to peel off their clothing, stuff them into pajamas, and put them to bed. Then, muttering thanks to the goddess Kuan Yin, she flung her weary self into the armchair to seek solace in the uninterrupted enjoyment of the last inning. No sooner had she done so than a chorus of cries issued from the bedroom. "Sean's wet! Sean's wet! Sean's wet!" "Which one of you is Sean?" Silence, drooling. Undoing the buttons from neck to toe, she looked for signs of Sean, wishing that they were dressed like Chinese babies with a handy slit in their pants. How much simpler life had been in Chungking when all she had to do was lift Precious Coin's legs over a chamber pot. By the time Sean was found and sanitized, the game was over. The Dodgers had won 4-3, but Shirley was much too beaten to enjoy the victory. Within moments, Mrs. O'Reilly returned. Her sons were snoring peacefully. Not a limb moved. The warriors had fought the good fight and deserved a rest. Shirley earned 3 dimes that shone in her palm as brightly as medals for valor. She couldn't wait to show them to her parents. The next day, Father presented her with a piggy bank. "Now that you're earning money, you deserve a proper place to keep it." While her proud parents watched, Shirley lovingly deposited the coins in the china pig. Thereafter, twice a week, Mrs. O'Reilly did her good works, and twice a week, Shirley wrestled with Sean, Seamus, and Stephen. For a while, the coins that jingled even more loudly in the pig drowned out the taunts of the terrible threesome. But as the magic number, any combination of Dodger wins or Cardinal losses, needed for the Dodgers to win the National League pennant, dwindled from 7 to 6 to 5 to 4 to 3, Shirley fretted. More and more she longed to exchange the chaos of the downstairs apartment for the quiet of her own. The boys were no fans of the Dodgers or of Shirley. Drastic measures were called for. Before she went to babysit again, Shirley secretly substituted buttons for the coins in the piggy bank. Then, at Mr. P's, she armed herself with a fabulous array of candy. "Amitabha, Bribery worked magic. Sucking sweets, the terrible threesome was no more. In their stead, the tame trio. Bursting into her own apartment in triumph, Shirley found her mother still working on the accounts for the Signora and her father mixing paint. As usual, they stopped what they were doing to witness the grand ceremony of feeding the pig. Mother gave her a quick squeeze. Father patted her on the shoulder. "Go on, Shirley, go on." "No, wait," announced Father as he pulled a small blue book from his back pocket to give Shirley. On it were stamped many numbers and her name in gold. "What is it?" "Your own savings account at the Brooklyn National Bank. Open it." On the first line was a deposit of $5, a week's grocery money. "Now every time the pig is filled, you can go to the bank yourself and make a deposit, and every penny in the account will go to help pay for your college education." "College?" "Yes, it is not too early to plan. College is expensive, but it is the most valuable treasure a person can have. With a proper education, you can aspire to do anything you desire in America. Be a doctor, or a teacher, or an engineer? Of course." Passing her finger over the name in gold, Shirley pictured herself as a grown-up, saving a life on the operating table, teaching a class, building a bridge. The images thrilled her, for she saw them so clearly in her parents' eyes. She wanted to tell them all that was in her heart, but how do you express such feelings? Americans, she knew, would simply say, "I love you," but Chinese never used the phrase. It was too obvious, too direct, like a present on one's birthday rather than those her father gave for no reason at all. Americans would also kiss. They did it all the time, even in public. That also seemed wrong. Without her saying a word, her parents knew how she felt, and this she understood. It was the essence of being Chinese. But Shirley wanted to find a special way, her own way. What could it be? Mother came to the rescue by handing her the pig. She gave it the customary 3 shakes. This never failed to make her parents laugh. Suddenly, Shirley remembered the trick she had played, bribing the boys. This time, when the dimes dropped, the sound was hollow, counterfeit. In the morning, the shame had not gone away. It cast a stillness within her like the hush of new snow. She began to see things she had failed to see before. Once again, her parents had slept through the alarm. But only now did she realize it was because of the long hours they worked to keep a promise she had made for them to the Signora, worked to build a new life for them in America, worked without complaint, always with cheer. How could she have deceived them so? Shirley confessed everything to Emily. "You'll feel much better when the buttons are replaced." "How?" "I'll share my school meals with you until you have saved enough." "You will? That's what friends are for." But things thoughtlessly done are never so easily undone. This Shirley learned the next time she babysat. Expecting candy and having none, the boys took turns unplugging the radio. 3 against 1 was no contest, and so she missed the crucial game, the game that clinched the pennant for the Dodgers.